What's up? I'm happy to be here. It's been a few days since I've been able to play, and I'm still in honeymoon phase with Bloodborne, even though I've put like 140 or 50 hours into it over 3 months. I haven't played a single other game since I started playing this game, but I still get stoked anytime I get a chance to play. So that's a good time. Now, to be honest, this is my second attempt at this. The first time I tried to go into the research hall, it was a sloppy mess. So this may just be a slow and chill video. I've been trying to be as efficient as I can be, being a slow and chill kind of dude. But this one, I think I'm just going to have to take my time because I still don't know it that well. I still get lost, and there's just so much to explore and to potentially extrapolate from this area. And I'm still trying to get my thoughts together on it. So just bear with me. And luckily, this is an amazing area, so I don't think I can do too much to mess it up. I think it'd be a good idea to turn my HUD on here. Right out of the gate, they just... Oh, I forgot about that one. They set you up by putting this extra creepy
seen my eyes?
passive patient here that's just complacent, digging around in a poison pool for his eyes with this like creepy placid voice. And then they do such a good job of just like increasing the chaos as you move upwards. It's such an unsettling area. I love it. We get some blue elixir there, which I think I'm gonna do a lot of speculation on the experiments that are going on, and I think that blue elixir is almost certainly either used or is a byproduct of some of the things going on here. We get a couple samples of that. Now, to set the stage on all my thoughts from here on out, in my view, what we're in now is some snapshot of the past and what was and then continued to be later on the Upper Cathedral area and the orphanage and the birthplace of the choir. And I think we're getting a fragment of what happened at some point between the experiments that started in Bergenworth and then when that transitioned to the Healing Church. And this is the experiments that birthed what eventually made these celestial emissaries that the choir succeeded in. And all this is from the lens of Maria's memories of this place. So the thing that's tough about the DLC is trying to figure out how much of what we're seeing is historically accurate, I guess you could say, what actually happened, and how much is kind of twisted by this nightmare form. So that's kind of what's in my head as I'm going through. But everything coordinates with the Upper Cathedral, from like the door design here, this like demon bull thing. You see these on the doors in the Upper Cathedral area, and then of course these like statues where the lights are. You see these going up from the orphanage to like the celestial emissary fight in the waking world. No idea what these are, by the way. No idea. But there's a lot of statuary that we see that kind of looks like what maybe was early forms of kin that we no longer see, that either were eradicated or evolved to something that we no longer see in the in the waking world. So we've already seen 3 different types of patients. The kind of normal patients that we just saw, the passive patient down below, and now this naked, frenzied patient. All equally disturbing in their own ways. Throw in a few shelf traps, and then just the scale of this place when you first walk in gives you that Duke's Archives feel, where it feels so much bigger than it actually is, and it overwhelms you. I mean, everything about this place is just good. It's just good. Now, I'll tell you what I think that is, and let me take one thing at a time. Let me get this guy out of here.
Oh, save me.
So here we have a bottle labeled hydrogen chloride or hydrochloric acid. And that's going to form the basis of my theory for what was actually going on in the waking world experiments, at least one component of the experiments in the waking world. But I'm going to wait and try to lay all that out, because in the first attempt, that's exactly what derailed me, and then I was kind of wandering around, rambling and lost for a long time. So let me clear out a little more area and just observe and explore, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on the experiments going on here. I don't have the heart to kill all these poor patients. There's lots of these bottles that are labeled HCl, but then there's even more that look the same and aren't labeled. And I think that that's what's coming out on the traps, by the way, because hydrogen chloride, when it reacts with water vapor in the air at room temperature, it turns into like a fume, a white fume. So I think that's what we're seeing coming out of these shelves, and also what we're seeing when some of these enemies what some of them are throwing at us, and what come out of some of them, the ones that have like the growths on their arm. I think they're just like spewing it. I call this guy Crowface Billy. I think there's another one like him, but I like this one specifically for some reason. You guys ready for some real deep lore right here? Maybe I'm not the first person to say this. I'm sure I'm not. But beast blood pellets are poop. It's beast poop. I had this thought when I invited the suspicious beggar to Odin Chapel the first time, and he started eating people. And every time he would eat people, every time he would eat someone new, he would then give me beast blood pellets. And I thought, he's giving me his own poop. And then, so I'm kind of joking in that I don't know that it's actually what it's supposed to be, but it says supposedly formed of coagulated beast blood. When I read the description, I was like, holy crap, it is poop. But large medicinal pellets supposedly formed of coagulated beast blood, banned by the Healing Church due to their unclear origin. I don't know. I think it's beast poop. Deep lore for you. Beast blood pellet equals beast poop. And you eat it all the time. You've been eating it. You probably eat it before every single boss. You nasty, nasty person, you. Okay. I don't know if I want to talk now. I want to wait. So I think this is as brutal as everything is going on that you see in these rooms, as brutal as this right here is. I think this is like still a depiction of like Maria's memories of this place. And I'll tell you one thing that I'm trying to kind of decide on my own as I'm going through here is how much I should hate Maria. Because as of right now, I see Maria as an absolute monster, just like I see Gehrman for the things that I think he did in the fishing hamlet, and just like I see Ludwig for all the things that he did to old Yarnum and old Yarnum, and just like I see Lawrence for his pride basically leading to everything that we see in the game, and so I think that they're all equally monsters, but I really want to. I would like to not hate Maria as much. I want to find, some reason to like her. I think just because she's a cool character. So I'm trying to decide if there's any silver lining. I know that we have the Rakuyo description that says she kind of became passive. She gave up fighting, but the evidence here points to her not being a very good person, and specifically the evidence of Adeline, as we're going to talk to now. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to hold out hope that maybe there's a theory that I've had or a thought that I've had, that since I'm viewing this as Maria's memories, these patients that are calling out to her and to seem to kind of revere her, maybe Maria was involved in this. She clearly was involved in this. But maybe she really did have more sympathy than most other people. And she felt like these people were kind of depending on her for help, and that she would like to help them. And I think she remembers this even more brutally than it is. Like, I think all these kind of random like things just shoved into them that really make no sense. I think this is her memories of like that these people were being like poked and prodded on unreasonably, kind of, and that and in her memories, or maybe in her, whatever you want to call this, her projection of this time in this area, she sees these people, calling out to her for help, but I think that her way of helping was still questionable, to say the least. But here you see they like literally are cutting off this person's head, which I do think is the nightmare version, and I don't think this was actually happening in the waking world. I'll tell you in just a second what I think they were doing.
Is that you, Lady Maria? No. You're someone else. Please, could you do something for me? I need brain fluid. Murky, mushy brain fluid. Please, could you do something?
The voice acting in this game is just so damn good. Okay, so what I think they were doing in the real world, in the waking world, in the actual experiments, is creating a stomach, basically, out of like whatever, like some kind of leather bag or some dense material. And I think they probably were still injecting a compound that was almost certainly made of, I would say, like old blood and probably quicksilver or mercury, and who knows what else. Maybe this blue elixir or something like it. Maybe this lead elixir, because when you imbibe it, it gives this sound. Very wet and sloppy and drip droppy, like a lot of them describe. So I don't know if this is a byproduct of these experiments, or if it was used, but very potentially used. And then, blood, and then some form of other chemicals, and maybe there was many different experiments that used different things. I think blood is probably the one consistent. But then once they would get whatever the compound was that they wanted in their head, I think they were fashioning this bag around their head and filling that between their head and this bag with like a layer of hydrochloric acid, and creating a stomach pretty much around their head that would just slowly digest their face and skull and everything until it was just one big mixture. And that's what created the brain fluid that we're going to find later. So in the nightmare version, the successes, quote unquote, end up just a head, a conscious head with no body. I think in the real world, it just killed them, but they were left with this bag of fluid. And in the successful ones, then that fluid was then used to imbibe into other patients, and eventually that led to the successes that came up with potentially the lumen wood rune, as we find, or at least later went on to lead to the celestial emissaries as we know them. Potentially with maybe some other things thrown in later experiments, but I think that was kind of the basis of what they were doing, is just eating people's heads away with acid. And I think the reason they were doing that, my theory is that the earliest experiments, like the Bergenworth experiments, were kind of more archaic than that. I think they were just like doing experiments in things' heads and then cracking them open to see if there were eyes inside. And I think they started kind of, streamlining the process, so they didn't have to even crack open a skull. They just dissolved it. That's my theory, pretty much based on the hydrochloric acid and the little bit I know about it. I'm going to head back up. Make sure I didn't miss anything this way, because I honestly don't remember if there's another door. Nope. Again, apologies. I've counting my first attempt at this video, this is only the third time that I've ever been through this place. I believe this is... Hang on. it's an actual rune, but I don't remember which one it is. Communion. This rune represents the healing church and its ministers. Blood ministration is, of course, the pursuit of communion. This doesn't mean much to me, except that I think that the church was just as evil as it gets, and they were justifying all their experiments in some kind of lofty pursuit of greatness. And again, I think it's all slight commentary or a critique of actual power structures and actual religious structures in their worst forms, or at their worst times, I should say. Things like the Crusades, and rampant pedophilia. Equally as brutal as what's going on here, and real. So again, just the atmosphere here. Jesus Christ. I mean, there's a lot of games that do insane asylum type things, but this is up there. This is in the tops for
Please help me.
some of the most twisted and horrifying atmosphere I've ever seen in a game. This is excellent. Absolutely excellent. And again, those people are calling out for Maria. A couple of them kind of say things that make me think that they were prisoners. Like, I'm guilty. So there's no telling where they were getting all these people to experiment on. So this is the one I was talking about. See, I think this is the way this stuff, one, poisons you, and then two, the way it's liquid, but then it kind of dissipates into like a vapor, I think is consistent with hydrochloric acid. And he drops a ton of Quicksilver bullets, which, I mean, we know that Quicksilver is just mercury, and I don't have a lot of thoughts about that, but I mean, clearly that was a component. That is a component. It's a big part of this game, the Quicksilver, and it's a component in the experiments they were running here, almost certainly. Actually, I need to go read the description of Quicksilver. Like Quicksilver bullets. I don't think you can do it from the menu. I need to read that again. You also pick up lots of blood gems in this area, different types of blood gems. And I think I looked at a few of those, but I didn't find anything that was like, I don't know. I didn't have any thoughts on if there would be lore reasons for that or not. Not sure, to be honest. I even remembered that one that time. Yeah, so here we see these depictions of the bodies that are headless that I guess we can assume. Let's see. So we find two completely... Let's see, we find two heads, enlarged heads by themselves that give us the brain fluid, and then we find... There's like 4 in a room that attack you. I don't know. I don't think there's any reason to try to correlate these with those, but again, in the waking world, I don't think that they were actual, keeping bodies alive without heads. I think this is just the nightmare version. More blue elixir, which again is maybe a byproduct of these experiments. Yeah, here's the actually, yeah. So this probably is meant to be a correlation with these heads in here. We'll kill all of them, but the one by the door, I think. This one, yeah. Looks like more felled. Enlarged heads laying around here. We have a mirror in this room. I don't remember. I'm gonna be looking for other mirrors, but maybe just having to actually see themselves. Frenzied them to the point of like developing this almost, I don't know, I mean they share these types of patients share like similarities with both the coffin monsters, I don't know what they're called, and Yahargul that shoot the frenzy blood at you, and then also with the tentacles, it's a very kin attack. So these dudes here exhibit a different kind of transformation than all the other patients. Maybe it was different experiments, or maybe it was just something about this mirror being in the room and them actually having to look at their own hideous transformation as it was happening, which I guess they couldn't, because they couldn't actually see it with that thing on their head, huh? I don't know. Okay, there's a place I want to be, and I know one way to get there, but I don't think it's the way I want to go. I'm gonna find it and then I'll see you there. Okay, here's where I wanted to be. It was just on the other side of where I was. Just because I like toying with this guy. Oh, He actually, he did it. He killed himself real quick. The first time I did that, he fell down, and then later I rode the elevator down and he was still down there. So I got to fight him in the poison pit. But this time he did not want to stick around. That extra height that he got when he Air Jordaned off that edge there was enough to do him in, I guess.
Plip, plop, plip, plop, plip,
So I assume that
plip.
he is the big brother that it's talking about in this brain fluid here. Once a young girl had an older brother who was determined to become a doctor, and so she willfully became his patient. In the end, this led to their encounter with the eldritch truth, for which they considered themselves blessed. So yeah, I guess I assume that church member there was her brother. And it brings up something that I haven't thought of before this area really, or at least in that little stretch before you get into the research hall, but I feel like I've been kind of loose with my term hunter, calling almost everybody hunters. And some of that maybe is my fault, but some of it's confusing to know who's a hunter and who's not. I think there's maybe like two different ways to look at what a hunter is. I think there are some hunters that just choose to be hunters, and that they hunt beasts, or they hunt whatever it is, hunt kin, or hunt whatever they're hunting, hunt other hunters. And then there's something else that maybe makes you a hunter innately. And it brings up an interesting thing to think about with our player character at the beginning. Like, are you a hunter when you arrive in Yharnam already, or does the old blood that you're given create a hunter out of you because of something innately in you? Well, I guess we'll save that. I'll talk more about that when we roll around to New Game Plus and actually start fresh in the clinic. But lots to think about. Okay, so I've got my first brain fluid. I'm gonna go ahead and go give that to Adeline. Make sure that I progress through that quest line correctly and don't mess it up. But first, we'll take a look at this guy out here. It's tending to his lumenwood flower. Or lumen flower, I should say. So again, we can get a decent view of this neck contraption here that's been fashioned onto this poor guy. Blip, blop, blip. And I remember in my first playthrough, I killed this guy thinking that he hid the eyes of the first guy that we see downstairs here in this in the dirt of this flower. I was sure of it. I was sure I was gonna get that guy's eyes and finish a quest line or something. It's always fun. Years from now, I'll still be playing this game, hopefully. And oh, we got thoughts about these guys. Let me back up a little bit. Okay, so these guys, I don't have thoughts. I think it's interesting that these are like literal beast enemies. They react to blood damage just like dogs do. So anything like the rifle or the Chicago here, it knocks them down just like the dogs. So just like the frenzy characters, or the frenzy patients over there that I was talking about, or I should say like the arcane type that do frenzy and have the tentacle attack. You know, these seem to exhibit actual beast-like qualities, which it kind of brings up that duality thing that I was talking about with Ludwig, that I feel like kind of exists within everybody. At least that's what I'm starting to think, is that maybe there is just one type of blood. At first I thought there was kind of like Great One blood and Beast blood, and depending on, like, you know, what kind you took or not, you know. But I think there's just the old blood, and maybe something about each person tends towards one or the other. And either way can get out of hand. Either way you go. Whether you go like the Willem route and you're, you know, you can become a monster either way, and you can become a useless, like, you know, invalid either way, I think, depending on, regardless of whether you become a beast or you become whatever you want to call the, like a phantasm, kind of, or at least something similar to a phantasm. I'm not sure that, my thoughts are scattered on that, and that's probably something I'll revisit, so that probably doesn't mean much right now, but I think that if there's a lesson to be learned in this game, or if there's a lesson that's kind of being hinted at, I think that it's that the humans in this game are all chasing some kind of power through beings other than themselves. When there's like you know, not to get cheesy or anything, but the collective power of humanity itself, I think, is they were ignoring, and they were chasing this power in the cosmos, in these great ones, or in the beast blood, and trying to create something out of themselves that wasn't just human, ignoring the fact that their humanity was the most powerful thing that they could have. And so there's this duality of like different paths that you could go that would create a monster out of you either way you went. Again, just more to think about later for myself, but not that this game has to have any kind of lesson or anything like that. Like I said, I don't want to make a cheesy, like, here's what Miyazaki's trying to preach to us. I don't think it's that at all, but I do think there's I don't think there's anything wrong with a little hint at, like, you know, human solidarity and actually working together to try to do something good would be nice, rather than seeking power in all the wrong places and just destroying everything in the process. Again, I think there's a lot of nice real world parallels that you can make with that. Okay, let's go see Adeline.
Please, could you do something for me? I need brain fluid. Murky, mushy brain fluid. Oh, thank you. You're terribly kind. Oh, it's wonderful. Oh, I hear the sticky sound. Do you hear it too? Oh, I know. Will you have my blood as thanks? I'll have you know, I was once a blood saint too. That makes me happy, but I cannot move. Look, on my right arm. I'm sorry to trouble you, but you don't mind, do you? Oh, don't be greedy. I should know.
So interestingly, Adeline doesn't have that like metal collar thing. She's the only person that I've found that has the remnants of a neck that you can see right there. Don't think that actually means much, but now you know. Okay, now I will see you back at the top. We'll go get the other brain fluid. Okay, up to the rafters, which of course have to be here. If they weren't here, this game could not exist. You have to have rafters in a FromSoft game. The fact that they waited until the DLC to put rafters, wild. Couple of random Great One wisdoms around in different places of the game that it's kind of interesting to me. That's a patient that's up here, maybe just sufficiently frenzied. It seems like enough frenzy can make people drop Great One's wisdoms. I just say that because in the Nightmare of Mensis, we see several of them in the area where you get kind of pelted by the brain of Mensis there.
Listen close, and you too will hear the sound of water.
I have failed. Please, Lady Maria. I have failed. Please, Lady Maria.
That's interesting. I remember that girl, but I didn't realize that she like walked up to that place where she's posted up before you go into the living failures. Okay, there's one other thing, and it's right there that I want. The lock shield, and this is where I came up with the thought that maybe Ludwig got his Holy Moonlight sword from the Is chalice, because we're told that the Healing Church went into the Labyrinth of Is. And there's also some references to a lake, and I know that like the Arcane Lake rune protects from arcane damage, which is what this does. There's probably something there that I don't quite understand about. Maybe it's just the water thing. There's the connection between water and the Great Ones and the cosmos. There's a lot to be unpacked there that I don't have any real like super insightful things to say. But I just realized I never got the other brain fluid. So I'll see you back up there. First we'll take on this little stretch. So yeah, I'm going with hydrochloric acid and mercury is what this dude is emitting out of his arm. The first time I ever talked to this thing, when she gets to the point about she's talking about things coming up from the depths, I got scared and thought she was going to explode, and I hid behind this pillar. And then afterwards I laughed at myself about it. It's pretty sexual and also a little scary.
Have you heard how curiously the sea churns? Like a storm, but like the rain, only gentle, like dripping water. It bellows from deep inside of me. Here it comes, up through my inside, but gently, like little droplets.
I don't know for sure, but this is kind of interesting. This reminds me of the like scrap of flesh that you get. This thing that I'm clipping into inside her here. You know, it doesn't look just like the art or anything, but it kind of resembles the scrap of flesh that you get from Annalise that you can revive her with, and these things are immortal. I'm sure there's no connection there, but it's fun. It's fun to pretend. In the early days of the Healing Church, the Great Ones were linked to the ocean, and so the cerebral patients would imbibe water and listen for the howl of the sea. Brain fluid writhed inside the head, the initial makings of internal eyes. So maybe there was also just plain water thrown into those chemicals that I was talking about earlier. And I think that, well, we learn from
like a storm?
From Adeline in a second, that eventually, when she kind of breaks through, she's pretty much in contact with, if not a great one, kind of the energy of great ones, the phantasms. You know, there's a very convoluted, I don't know. There's lots going on there. If you take into account the dancing sprites that Ludwig is talking about that he sees, and you think about the phantasms that we're about to learn about with Annalise, it all kind of adds up to make me think that there's something almost like a dark matter that's out there in existence that we can't see as the characters or as humans in the game, but that is kind of the living energy that is characteristic of the Great Ones. I've even had thoughts that maybe Kaz, and maybe even all Great Ones, aren't that big of a deal on their own. Maybe even Great Ones are kind of inhabited by some smaller organisms that actually make up like the main essence of them. I have no idea. Obviously I'm kind of going out way on a limb here, and these are not even things that I think necessarily. They're just thoughts I've had. So we'll go ahead and talk to Simon.
Oh, hello. Not a pretty sight, is it? The true face of the blood-worshipping, beast-purging, healing church. But that's not all. You seek the secrets held by the nightmare, do you not? Then here's what you must do. Climb the astral clock tower and kill Maria. She hides the real secret.
Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? Please, somebody, I need help. I'm trying, but I'm afraid the sound is fading. Hello? Is that who I think it is? Please. Oh, please, I need brain fluid. The sticky sound is fading fast. Please bring me brain fluid. I must have it. That sound, it is all that guides me. Without it, I'll be sent back to my former, lesser years.
So yeah, she's starting to get kind of glimpses of this contact with the celestial realm.
Yes, that's it. Let me have it. I can hear it. Yes. The sound that guides me. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have saved me. Take this charm. Lady Maria gave it to me, but it is all I can offer, other than my own blood.
So she's saying the sounds guide her, and that makes me think of the same kind of thing that Ludwig believed, that the dancing sprites that he could see were guiding him. So you have kind of two different sensory components, potentially different energies that they were tapping into, or maybe it's all the same thing. Maybe it all makes no fucking sense and I should stop trying, but it's really fun. It's really fun to keep uncovering, all these little bits and pieces and think about how it all ties in together, even if it doesn't. It's the beauty of these games, man. And this one, specifically, I think it's like there's so much there to play with. It's just a good time.
Do not abandon me.
So this is where my hopes to try to actually like Lady Maria. Oh, I meant to say this earlier too. Hydrochloric acid is also called muriatic acid. M-U-R-I-A-T-I-C. Muriatic. Which, muriatic. M-U-R-I-A. That's pretty close to Maria. Don't know what that means. Again, grasping here. But I thought it was potentially interesting. So this... Oh, we picked up the underground cell key. And also the balcony key. And here's where my hopes, like I said, to think of Maria as a good character at all kind of die. Because she gave this to Adeline. It starts off good. Maria had hoped Adeline would find comfort in the faint breeze that carried the scent of flowers from the outside, but Adeline couldn't fathom her intentions. So I think Maria had some kind of knowledge or a hunch that the lumen flowers, there was a property of them that kind of channeled, some form of celestial energy, and that she was kind of cultivating Adeline to be a success. So even though I think Maria probably had a bigger heart or a little more sympathy for the patients than a lot of the other people in the church, at the end of the day, I think she had her own intentions and her own kind of search for power, or her own, lofty goals of ascension, and that she was, willing to use patience to get to those ends. So even though I like her, I still think she was a monster. How creepy are these things? Again, just so disturbing, unsettling. Okay, so we come out to the lumen flower garden that is blooming, and we kind of get these little wisps of things that I assume is kind of symbolism of this cosmic power that they have. And this is apparently before the statues were put in here. That I don't know. I actually went to, before I started all this, before I started my exploration into the research hall, I went to the upper cathedral and I went to the orphanage, and I looked around and explored those areas kind of thoroughly in the base game. And there's statues that I thought were just the lumen flowers, like kind of the big one in the Living Failures fight. And then the more I looked, the more I thought they were like a creature. So it could be, could actually be the moon presence, or it could just be a weird lumen flower. I don't know. I'm gonna look into that more later. But for now, I'm going to grab this Black Sky Eye and GTFO. I do wonder how this lumen flower garden became a thing. My speculation would be that they were either dumping the remains of like unsuccessful experiments out here, or maybe even like burying the like the bag heads that that they thought were unsuccessful, but over time, this place, just dumping the remains, over time this place actually became somehow a success through the failures in creating these flowers that then were able to kind of channel the whatever it is, that the energy, the phantasms of the Great Ones, which I think kind of then ties into the Living Failures fight, when you have the giant lumen flower, the lumen wood there, and you have the Living Failures rising up out of the ground, just like the Celestial Emissaries do when you fight them out here. A quick thought here that I don't think I said the last time, but maybe this was just like a healing area for the church members, or whoever I guess they deemed fit to come to the church for healing. or and maybe it also functioned as kind of an opium den of sorts. It kind of has that look to me as well. And we know that the blood was intoxicating. I think the pungent blood cocktail tells us that Yarnum produced more blood than alcohol because the former was more intoxicating. So maybe along with being a hospital for hunters or whoever, as we can kind of see here, I think it could have also just been like a place to come get high on the church's supply.
Oh, hello. One last time. Will you fetch brain fluid just one last time? The murky, mushy fluid that will make me whole. The sticky sound whispers to me, so very close, right into my ear. My head, just a head, that's all there is. I need my baptism. Please, I beg of you, I want to be something.
We fail to realize our own latent potential until the moment it is lost and we sense its absence. That's a sentence right there. That's good stuff. Like, just not even thinking about the game for a second. That's excellent writing right there. We fail to realize our own latent potential until the moment it is lost and we sense its absence. Ironically, this is the very nature of insight, like the moment one licks one's own blood, only to be startled by its sweetness. That's awesome. That description is good stuff. I like that.
Please give me brain fluid. The sticky sound whispers I need my baptism.
Super weird moment though. Giving her own juices. And then this reaction.
I see a shape. My guide, I see your voice. Clearly as it bends and bleeds. My own revelation. Just for me. Thank you for everything. Really, I used to be nothing.
And she flattens out. I do think that the brain suckers are some form of like evolution of these things in the waking world. That gurgling sound that she does after you give her the third brain fluid, it's similar to this noise that they make, and it makes sense to me. They kind of have this, they have similar like patient gowns on, and they're wanting to suck your brain juice out. So it makes sense to me that they would somehow be connected, to the experiments here. I think that I don't think that that's too crazy of a theory. Apparently, this Madaras Whistle has all kinds of reviving properties. Revive the Snell girl, as we saw earlier, and then also apparently her. That's kind of useless. She doesn't actually do anything, but very neat. I read that you could interact with the Snell girl and the first part of the Hunter's Nightmare with this thing, and then tried it on her as well, and it works. Okay, let's look at this rune. A transcription of the inhuman sticky whispers that reveal the nature of a celestial attendant. Those who take this oath become a lumen wood that peers towards the sky, feeding phantasms in its luscious bed. Phantasms guide us and lead to further discoveries. As far as I know, phantasms are just the type of kin-like creature that's pretty much an invertebrate. I think anything that's kind of ghost-like or eel-like in this game is considered a phantasm. I could be wrong about that, but it may be more complicated what phantasms are. But this rune pretty much turns us into one of those lumen flowers and allows us to channel this energy that I've been talking about, this celestial force that it seems that great ones can interact with, and that maybe are even the active force that are inhabiting great ones themselves. Don't know, just a possibility, I think, given the parasites that are in Kos and the fact that the parasites of Kos interact with this. So not a ton of thoughts here, other than I think that Maria kind of groomed this lady in these experiments, and it was a catalyst that led to what would eventually become the choir and the creation of the celestial emissaries and the successes that they had in the future. I think this was kind of the start of it. Whether it was this actual rune, I don't know, but something like this happened, I think, in the waking world between Maria and a patient named Adeline, and kind of catapulted the research forward. I don't have a lot to say about the living failures other than I just think that they are the predecessors to what we eventually see in the Celestial Emissary in the base game. And they have a similar moveset, kind of the similar blue coloration to them. And one thing that I don't know is why they're considered failures when the Celestial Emissary is considered a great one, because as far as I can tell, which obviously, again, this kind of throws into question, like, we're seeing them in the nightmare. So what they were in real life, I don't know. Maybe this is how Maria envisioned them. Maybe they were different. These actually remind me, maybe the same thing as kind of the enemies that throw the boulders in the Nightmare Frontier. Actually, I have a whole theory on those guys that I'll tell you about when I get there. But by what you see here in the Nightmare anyway, other than being a little uglier, like, these dudes exhibit pretty much all the same power and maybe more, actually more so than the Celestial Emissary himself, that is considered a great one. So don't really know. Maybe it's just a matter of perspective that the church considered these things failures because of the way they looked or something, when in reality maybe they were every bit as great one as the Celestial Emissaries that came later. I don't know. Again, it's all fun to speculate on, but far too convoluted for me to connect all the dots and make it completely cohesive right now, given my knowledge that I have so far. Enjoy the music a little bit more though. There we go. Obviously, I made that harder than it had to be, but I actually really like that fight now. It has its own kind of like special vibe. I think it's more fun to drag it out a little bit. So, plus that soundtrack is dope as hell. And this is one of my favorite views in the game right here. That upper cathedral orphanage, top of the church area with this mutated lumen wood here. This right here. I love this view. This is screensaver worthy. This is excellent right here. Okay, I know I knew this one was going to be longer, a little sloppy, a little drawn out, but I love the research hall, and I had fun. I had fun thinking about it and speculating. So Next time, we may do a little bit of a boss rush. We may do Maria and Lawrence. I may just do those two in a chapter. And then we'll finish up the DLC with the fishing hamlet. So I will see you next time.